Hey folks, Post here, welcome back to another Pokemon Masters video. So today we're going to go into the top 10 hardest physical hitters in the game. And yeah, we also do have special as well, which will be coming out tomorrow, so probably want to get that as well. But yeah, we're going to go over the top 10 hardest hitters that do physical damage. And again, like I said, we did special as well, and spoiler alert, special attackers in terms of just raw damage blow physical out of the water. It's not even close. But yeah, we'll go through physical first, and then we'll go through special tomorrow. So first of all, let's go over the rules for this one, right? And basically here are the rules we came up with, and by we I mean me, Runner, Blank, and Squish. Thanks to them, I didn't have to take a whole week calculating all these, all the numbers here, and it only took us an afternoon, right? So again, huge shout outs to them for helping out and doing the math, doing some math. I mean, hey, everyone's in quarantine, don't have much to do, so spent the afternoon doing some math. So anyways, here are the rules for this list. So what we're ranking them is based on their hardest hit. So it's damage per move, not damage per second, which is why, some units might be higher than others, where you would think, another unit's probably better, right? Like some recoil, users are here, but you wouldn't think you'd use them over some of the other units, just because, again, we're ranking them on how much damage they do per hit, not how good they are or whatever. It's just raw numbers in terms of that. So no supports, self buffs only. So Dragonite won't be on here. Unfortunately, doesn't have any buffs to help it out. Also, Dragonite's a special type attacker, but it was just an easier example to use, right? So we're gonna use them against neutral typing, so no type effectiveness, whatever. I mean, if you guys want, you can just apply the multiplier to every one if you want to check out type effectiveness damage, which again, since it's same for everyone, doesn't really matter here. So as for the sync rates that we're going for, we are prioritizing damage per move, again, not damage per second, which is a completely different metric, right? So we are picking up basically all the grids that or all the nodes that give us the most damage on a single move. So again, since we're not doing it per gauge or whatever, right, or per second, we're probably not picking up any of the move gauge refreshers, which is probably better in most case scenarios. But again, we're just going for the biggest damage per hit. Moving on, as for the stats, it's going to be max 5 out of 5, 20 out of 20 for all the summable units, and which means 3 stars are going to be 5 stars, 20 out of 20, right? 5 out of 5. And for free to play units, we're going to go for 20 out of 20. And as for the dupes, it just depends on how many dupes are available at the moment, right? So stuff like Lucario, it's going to be only like 1 out of 5. Stuff like things that already had a dupe come out, like a little Raichu, it's going to be like 2 out of 5, right? Moving on, so we also have like lucky skills for each users. So basically, we're giving Crit Strike 2 to use that, well, have crit, and also due to how we calculate Power Flux here, we do have a lot of Crit Strike on a lot of users. We're not giving everyone max gauge for Power Flux, right? We're giving everyone the minimum amount of gauge they need to activate a move for Power Flux, right? So if it's like a Stone Edge, it's going to be 3 gauges left. But if this unit does have move gauge buffs, we're going to give them 6. If we gave everyone 6 gauges, everyone's just going to have Power Flux 3. So again, generally, and this does vary sometimes, but generally, for units that have crit, +2 or +3 crit, we gave them Crit Strike 2, and users with +1 or no crit. And if you're wondering who the heck has +1 crit, Rotom. Rotom has +1 crit, and yeah. For users with those, we give them Power Flux currently, and also 4-gauge move users, we give them Power Flux 3 as well. So, anyways, let's get on the list. I probably forgot some other rules, but we'll go over them as we go through the list. So, coming in at number 10, drum roll. This is a terrible drum roll, but yeah, number 10. Okay, at number 10 we have Cynthia Mega Garchomp. So Cynthia Mega Garchomp, they do a lot of damage. They do not have Surging Sand active, which would have, skyrocketed their damage, but do keep in mind, this is just based on a unit's self buffs, and Garchomp does not have self Sandstorm, thus we don't have Surging Sand here active, right? So, still does a lot of damage. So base stats, 437, right, at max, 20 out of 20. Grid plus gear, you have ground gear, so that's a free 40 extra physical, and then 10 from the free grid, right? Move power 120 on a maxed out earthquake, and by the way, AoE moves are calculated based on 100% of their damage, right? Passive active, again, no Surging Sand, so that's 0. Grid passives active, does not have expanded sync grid, so 0. Lucky skills active, we got critical strike 2, and we also, for the crit buff, we have 1.4. Oh, by the way, if you guys are wondering, why the heck is the crit buff 1.4? So initially we thought crit for users that had like +2 crit or whatever, right, was just going to be a pretty simple 1.5 times 80%, because +2 is just an 80% chance of crit. But Squish actually made the point that even at +2 crit, it's an 80% chance to crit and 80% chance to not crit. And if we went for like just a straight up 80%, then it would just be 80% chance to do 1.5 times damage and 20% chance to do 0 damage, which is actually not true, right? That's more in line with accuracy than crit. So basically it's an 80% chance to do 1.5 times damage and a 20% chance to do 1.2 times damage, and then you add those together, it's 1.4 times damage on average, right? And so that's where you got the 1.4 times. And also do keep in mind, no Sandstorm, so her trainer move is not going to buff her to the max in terms of her her crit, right? You only get 1 without Sandstorm per use. And attack buff 1.6, X attack, right? And then sync move buff 1.5. I mean, it's a mega, so there has to be sync move buff, and we just gave sync move buff to everyone, so there's that as well. So total damage, it's 235,630, which is a lot, right? Unfortunately, is Cynthia better than this? Obvious, because in most case scenarios you do want to use her in Sandstorm, but again, if no one brings it, then what can you do, right? And do keep in mind, again, this list is just based on self buffs. So there you go, Cynthia and Mega Garchomp here. At number 10. Moving on to number 9, we have a bit of a surprise. At least it was to me, Olivia Lycanroc. I thought, before we were doing this list, I thought they would be much higher, but apparently not. And another thing to keep in mind is when doing calculations, we're basing the opponent's physical defense at 1. And another thing that also to keep in mind, which is, even though Olivia Lycanroc does not do as much damage as a lot of the other folks on this list, there's a lot of other redeeming qualities that make Olivia Lycanroc a better unit. Again, this is not a list of the top 10, best, physical striker. It's just pure numbers who does more raw damage, which in this case, raw damage actually does favor users that have more attack buffs rather than, say, crit buffs, which again, crit is extremely useful in game, right? It's more of a practical thing in terms of it goes for shields, all that stuff, right? Your stat decreases, whatever, right? Crit is just so incredible in this game. But again, if we're talking about raw numbers, Olivia unfortunately does not do that much, and there's a lot of other redeeming qualities about Olivia, speed buff and all that stuff. But again, raw numbers, I mean, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. You know, coming in at number 9, not bad. With a total of 254,534, right? In terms of base stats, 441 gears. Rock gear is a thing. 2-star rock gear, right? And then plus the free grid, that's 50. Move power 120 on Stone Edge. 0 passives active, and when we talk about 0 passives active, it means passives that do increase their damage, right? Which in this case, I mean, technically there's a lot of passives active, but none of them increase damage, so that's not relevant here. Grid passive active 0. She doesn't have expanded synchro. Lucky skills, it did give her crit strike 2, right? And crit buff 1.5, attack buff 1.6, only 2 X attacks, and the sync move buff 1.5. Again, total damage 250,534. So that's number 9. Moving on to number 8. Slight surprise here for me personally as well, but Elesa Zebstrika. But after I thought about it, I guess it makes sense, because again, do keep in mind this is just how much raw damage everyone's doing. Zebstrika does a lot of damage to the opponent and to herself as well. So no, this does not mean she's a better unit than Olivia. But what this does mean is she does more damage on a single attack than Olivia, which is also factually true. So, anyways, let's go over it. So, base stats 346. Grid plus gear. That's again, there's electric grid. There's electric gear and a free grid. That's 50. Move power 150 on wild charge. Oops, that's a typo there. Passives act. It's supposed to be 0, but I put in 1. I guess it's. Oh, I know why I'd put 1. On the sheets it's like 1 times, right? But no passives active here that increases her damage. Grid passive active, no, she doesn't have expanded sync grid at all. Lucky skills active, critical strike 2, which again is probably actually I don't know, maybe crit strike 2 is good for Zebstrika and Elesa, but a lot of these well, I won't say a lot of these, some of these lucky skills are again just catered to make sure that their biggest hit does more damage and not in the long term overall. But who knows, like maybe it depends on who you're facing. Maybe she could only get like 2 wild charges off before she dies anyways, so maybe 3, who knows. So maybe crit strike 2 might actually be a good option here. Anyways, crit buff 1.5 times, attack buff 1.6 times, again 2 uses of X attacks, and crit buff, she does have 2 guaranteed crits there. And again, we're going for the biggest hit, so not average, just the biggest one, right? And then total damage, 256,608 here for Elesa Zebstrika. Moving on to number 7 here. Norman and Slaking? Okay. Huh. Alright. It's been like a few hours since we've done this, so this actually just took me by surprise. Okay, Norman and Slaking. It's only 1 out of 5 at the moment, which is pretty incredible that it got so high, even though like it's a free-to-play unit and it's only at 1 out of 5. Doesn't have any dupes. So anyways, let's go over it and see why it's all the way up here. Anyways, base stats 426. Grid plus gear. Again, base stats is assuming it's a 5-star 20/20, right? Grid plus gear. There's no normal gear. It's just regular gear, which is 20 plus the free grid. That's an extra 10, 30, right? Move power double edge 164 on a double edge. Passives active. Oh, so that's why. Power reserve 2. That's an extra 20% boost. The passive gives it 20% attack boost. Lucky skills active. Power flux 3. It doesn't have crit, so no point giving it crit strike. So power flux 3 is active for Norman, so that's how much again? 1.3 or something, right? Or was it 1.18? I don't know, I can't remember. But anyways, power flux 3, you guys should know if you do the math. But anyways, power flux 3 crit buffs. It doesn't have any crit buffs, but 1 just means like 1 times, right? So like not like it doesn't mean it has like 1 crit buff, it's 1 times, so like no crit buffs. Attack buff 1.6, sync move buff, that's 1.5. Total damage 285 K and 285,113. Again, double edge. You do damage to yourself. A lot of damage to yourself. Again, unfortunately, how Rico's works in this game. And also it's normal type, so you won't be using him that much, but it's just fascinating to see that he actually does a lot of damage here when you consider its highest damage potential. Moving on to number 6 on this list, Korrina Mega Lucario. Again, another 1 out of 5 free-to-play unit. Apparently free-to-play units do a lot of damage. So, base stats, 505. Right, grid plus gear, that's 25, because apparently Korrina does have like a special attack node on her free to play grid, which is kind of weird. Well, it's not that weird, but you know, it's slightly unfortunate. So that's like, you know, 5 less than what she probably would have gotten, you know, if she followed suit with all the other units, right? Move power 124 on close combat, passives active 0, grid passives active 0 as well. Lucky skills active. She does have crit strike 2. The crit buff is 1.4 times, and then the attack buff is 1.8. With power up punch, she could achieve that. Sync move buff 1.8, and then that totals to 298,106 over here, which is a lot of damage. So, there we go. Korrina Mega Lucario does have its issues. Do keep in mind, this is just how much damage it could do at max. Would it ever do this much damage? Probably. I mean, yeah, probably not. Because you probably would need like Enlightenment 9 so you don't die. before you could even like get enough power punches, right? So, and it's also not practical, like just using power up punches, right? Again, moving on to the next one on the list. We got number 5, Kris Feraligatr. Honestly, Kris Feraligatr got carried by this move power. Mega kick, like her base stats 297 is actually kind of low. One of the I'm pretty sure Kris Feraligatr is like the lowest on the list in terms of base stats, but just got absolutely carried by this move power of 200 over here. There is water gear, so 50 for grid plus gear. No passives active, no grid passives active. Lucky skill, got crit strike 2, crit buff 1.5 times. You got 2 guaranteed crits there. Attack buff 1.6. Sync move buff 1.5, and that totals to 299,808 damage for Kris Feraligatr on a Mega Kick, which is a lot of damage. So, moving on to number 4 on this list, Haxorus, apparently. Iris and Haxorus. Do keep in mind, this is just based on their highest hit, you know, their strongest hits, so it's going to be a non-confused outrage, apparently. So, that's, I guess, why Haxorus is all the way this high, right? So, base stats, 347, grid plus gear. There's a lot of grid nodes here for attack buffs. Plus dragon gear, that's 80. Move power, 136. And passives active, you got power reserve 2. Grid passives active, you got nothing. Lucky skills active, again, to keep in mind, this is 2 out of 5 Haxorus, not 3 out of 5 Haxorus. Lucky skills active, you got crit strike 2, crit buff 1.5, attack buff 1.8, and sync move buff 1.5. Again, this is on an outrage. Is this practical? No. But does this also do a lot of damage? Yes. 338,676 damage from another free-to-play unit. A lot of free-to-play units do a lot of damage, apparently. Moving on. Number 3 on this list, we got Steven and Metagross. So there are 2 situations for Steven, right? Which we didn't really know how we should categorize it, because Steven does have Power Chain 3 on Steven's passive, which that's a 30% boost when you're in Unity mode, right? But that's only, or you know, when you get the Unity buff, but that's only for like co-op, which does need, you know, again, we're doing this list without supports or whatever, but it does need your 2 teammates to hit your opponent, right? But is it really hard to activate? No, it's not really hard to activate at all. It's actually really easy to activate. So we did, you know, 2 separate calculations, one with and one without. And unfortunately for Steven, doesn't make a difference in terms of if Steven moves up on the tier list or not. It's still number 3 with or without. It just does a lot more damage with it, right? Oh, and then one thing also to keep in mind, we are basing this off their regular moves, so not sync moves. So no, we're not counting Mega Metagross is like sync nuke or whatever. Same with Charizard, right? So anyways, base stats, 500 base attack. That's a lot of attack. 500 base attack. Grid plus gear, again, he does have an expanded synchro. That's why there's so much stats over there for grid plus gear. 85 move power, 130 on a maxed out Iron Head. Passives active, again 0, but also power chain 3, depending on how you want to count this, right? Grid passives active 0, lucky skills active, crit strike 2, crit buff 1.5, attack buff 1.8 because of Meteor Mash and the increased chances for attack boost on Meteor Mash, right? So you can actually get max attack with Steven, right? Sick move buff 1.5, and then the total damage is without power chain 369,603. With power chain 3 active, it's 480,484. So that's there you go. That's Steven and Metagross, and here comes the first huge leap in damage. So again, check out Steven and Metagross without power chain 3, 369,000, right? Moving on to number 2, Rampardos, almost 500,000. A huge leap in damage here. So let us explain. So Roark and Rampardos, number 2. Did not see this coming. This damage will definitely will be enough to take an opponent out and yourself out, because do keep in mind, massive recoil damage. Does Rampardos hit extremely hard? Yes. Will Rampardos also kill itself in the process? Also yes. But anyways, base stats 418, base physical attack, grid plus gear, no expanded sync grid, but you do have the rock gear, right? 2-star rock gear, so that's 50 over there. 225 on the head smash. 225 on head smash. Passive active 0, grid passive active 0. Reason why we gave them power flux 3, because Rampardos does have move gauge buff, so you get max gauge there with the head smash. And like, come on, it's only one hit anyways. Crit buff 1.5 times. Yeah, I got a guaranteed crit there and guaranteed hit. That's why the damage isn't lowered due to any accuracy issues, right? You do have a sure hit. Attack buff 1.6, 2x attacks, and then sync move buff 1.5, and that totals to 492,804 damage from Rampardos. Yes, this is a lot of damage. Also not practical. Moving on to number 1 on this list, also a slight jump from number 2, is are we really going to be surprised here? Are we really going to be surprised here? Oh, well, 6 Red Mega Charizard X. Not much of a surprise here. I mean, this guy is like the king of self buffs. He literally got every single like self buff in the game. Well, almost, right? Actually, yeah, like except for like defenses and evasion, but like, offensively he got everything. You got your 1.8 attack buff, your 1.5 crit buffs, right? So like, yeah, what the heck. Reason we gave Mega Charizard X Power Flux 3 is because we got Rejuvenate, which restores 6 points, or not 6, 6 move gauges after dude sinks, so we get that. And yeah, anyways, let's get into the base stats and stuff. So 496 base stats, grid plus gear, that's an extra 65. Move power 147, maxed out Flare Blitz, and yes, you will do a lot of damage to yourself as well. Kind of see a bit of a pattern here, I guess, maybe. Grid passive active, we got Power Reserve 2. Again, we're just counting on how much damage you do on their hardest hit in this case, right? And again, Power Flux 3, 1.5 crit, 1.8 attack buff, sync move buff 1.5 times, total damage 521,026 damage. That's a lot of damage. There you go. number one on the list, Mega Charizard X, and 62 red. So yeah, that's for physical attackers. Again, this is just for the hardest damaging hit on your biggest move, which, you know, which means a lot of things, right? You probably, again, this is just, you know, for theoretical damage calculation, right? I wouldn't use Roark and Rampardos over Olivia in a lot of scenarios, although there are actually some scenarios where I would actually use Roark over Olivia. For example, I personally did use Roark over Olivia against in the Rayquaza event, right? Xenia Rayquaza event. Roark just clears that stage like so incredibly quickly, right? So yeah, there are cases where I would use Roark and Rampardos over Olivia Lycanroc, but most of the time we'll be using Olivia Lycanroc over Roark, right? But yeah, again, this is just a theoretical list in terms of how much big numbers they put out per hit. So yeah, there you go. Again, thanks to Squish, Blank, and Runner for helping me with the calculation, so it didn't take me 2 weeks to complete all this stuff. And if you guys do want like the full list, you can join the Discord, which is in the description box down below. I'll have it posted there. You know, there's more than just 10, right? Spoiler alert, a lot of other recall users are pretty high up here as well. But yeah, you can check all those out if you join the Discord. There's a sheet down there. And yeah, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy the videos on our channel for some more Promo Masters content. Again, I will be doing special attackers as well tomorrow, so tune in for that. That is honestly, that one's more fun than this. Special attackers, their damage just blow physical attackers out of the water. Like, the highest here is like 500k. The highest on special attackers is like almost 900. It's almost 2 times this. So yeah, fun times. Again, I'll see you guys in the next one.